You like how it's hidden? The total number's hidden? We'll reveal that at the end. All right, guys, welcome back to another video. We've been busy working all over the place, whether we're doing storm work or working on race cars or working on work trucks. We've been wide open. So we have some really good business opportunities, money-making opportunities if you guys are interested. If you guys are interested in doing some storm work, please holler at me, john.recovery@gmail.com. I'll disperse you to any of the guys. David, what's your email?
dwrecoveryllc@gmail.com.
Or you can get it with David as well. Great money-making opportunity. Hurricane season's right around the corner. We call it the Race Car Fund. Plenty of race cars have been built off of doing storm work. So if you guys are interested, it's a great part-time gig that could potentially turn into a full-time deal. But we're expanding everywhere. Florida, Texas, Virginia.
You need guys in Iowa.
Illinois, Detroit, Michigan, Indianapolis. Those are our hot spots right now. Obviously, hurricane season, we're going to be on the coast, but we're down here in North Carolina, but we work the continental 48. So if you guys have a 3/4 ton truck and are interested, please send me an email or send David an email. Other than that, we're back in the shop, been working. We got the motor back together in Slick Rick, which we tore it apart just for general maintenance. I showed that video of the block we got from Proline. That was a damaged block. That's about TCAM to get sent off. And we were down for probably like 3 weeks, but we were busy doing other things. If it was something where we just had to maintenance this, we would have been down for like a couple days. But we get busy doing other things. That's why when we have a second motor, we'll be able to just swap them in and out. So while this one's on the stand getting work done, we'll have another one in there to eliminate any downtime. But a big thing with operating and running a car of this caliber is just the operating cost. What does it cost? There's a lot of consumables, and the maintenance cycle on this stuff is insane. For reference, when I was running my Black Sheep engine in the Black Sheep, TCAM Performance 427 cubic inch hydraulic roller LS. That was probably the most horsepower with the least amount of maintenance that anyone could ever have. We were going 300 runs on a set of rods. We weren't taking the valve covers off because it was hydraulic roller, so we never had to worry about spending time checking rockers. We really didn't have any consumables. Once you get the tune-up right, at that power level, we know what it's going to make, and we never change plugs. We change oil every 30 passes, we change transmission fluid every 30 passes, and we just nut and bolted the car. There was no, hey, we need to put a set of bearings in it. There was no, hey, we got to put valve springs on it. I mean, we did every once in a while, like we're talking about every 100 and some runs. But the cost per run of that vehicle was so low. And that's why I'm building another one, just because it is enjoyable. It is a good car just to leave in the trailer and take it out to the track Thursday, Friday, Saturday, run some shootouts in low maintenance. The caliber car that Slick Rick is in the current updated Black Sheep is, it's a maintenance monster and it's expensive to run. So we're gonna go over what it costs, right? So we have a 41X, we were single turbo, we were twin turbo. Some of this stuff you can see it implements 35 runs, 10 to 12 runs, 50 runs. But so we just kind of got a price per that amount of runs, and then we factored into about 60 runs because that's when you're going to do like a full service on there. And that means pulling the motor out of the car and tearing it apart, inspecting it, looking at it. Some of the other stuff that you do will just be service in the car, like dropping the pan and putting bearings in it, or changing valve springs, doing anything like that. So what does it cost to run the car? Obviously, this is not including any other expenses of going to the racetrack, entry fee, fuel, meals, anything like that. That's not included. That is just specifically the car. So the car's already built. You spend all your money. You're like, man, the end is in sight. We're going to race and enjoy it. Boom, you're wrong. You're going to keep spending money. So 41X, it's a Proline deal. This is just kind of going off of what they recommend on their maintenance stuff, which is a good guideline to follow. We've pushed it further on some stuff, but the risk isn't worth the reward. So a big consumable on this thing is the connecting rods. You got aluminum rods. They have a lifespan. Unlike a steel rod in your, forged LS, your K1 rod, where you just keep running that thing for years and years and years, just like I do in the cow. These are consumables. Especially at this power level, the rod, you can stretch the pin bore on one end, or if you just run them too long, they'll just break in half. And yes, that happens. You just snap a rod. And I'm good buddies with Brandon Carter, and we were going back and forth because he has a 41X. You guys know Carter Motorsports. He gets us all of our wheels and everything like that. And I was like, man, how many runs do you put? He's like, man, I'm putting 100 runs on this thing. And I'm like, dude, I pushed it because we were running some lower power level runs, so it's less wear and tear on the rod. And I was changing my rods 70 runs, 75 runs. I think, what did we do last? It might have been just over 79, I think, which is up there. He's like, man, I change them every 100 rods. The next weekend he went out there, kicked a rod out the block. That's not enjoyable. So it is something where, you know, a set of rods for $2,000 is way cheaper than tearing the block apart, messing up the cam, having to repair the block, messing up the crank potentially. So every 35 runs, they recommend you put a new set of rods in there. And the rod, they're badass. They're built aluminum rods, but they just don't last. Like, there's nothing else you could do about it. There's no better rod. You can't run a steel rod. You have to run, it's the best that money can buy. So just on the rods, you're looking at every 35 runs, you're going to spend about $2,000. Mind you, this is no labor. This is just parts. We're running a 2-speed lockup. It's a Mickey transmission with a Mickey converter. Absolutely badass. You're not running this car hard, and this is all like if we're out there racing it. Like when we went out there Thursday night, we weren't running the lockup on there. We pretty much didn't start this life cycle. But once you start this life cycle and you're running the lockup, you are going to continue to run the lockup. So every 10 to 12 runs, the lockup clutches, they're gone. So you got to drop the transmission, pull the converter, take it apart, new lockup clutches. And you're looking at $250 for those lockup clutches and that Torrington bearing. Bearings for the motor, every 10 to 12 runs. So pretty much the same timeline as the transmission. When you're maintaining the transmission and the converter, you're going to drop the pan. So you put the car up on the lift or you put it on projects, you get underneath it, you start taking rod caps off and looking at the bearings. Normally, if you're there, you're that far in, again, it's $400 for bearings. Just put the new bearings in there. They might look great, and oh, well, we can run them some more. Just put the new bearings in there. So every 10 to 12 runs, we're doing bearings as well. Valve springs, they're recommending 50 runs. Now, we have an LSM tool where we can check valve springs, but once they start going, they're gone. Big horsepower, big cam, big valves, big valve springs, they're triple springs. So you're looking at $1,200 for a set of springs. That's just the springs, no retainers or no nothing like that. You hope that the retainers aren't beat up and you could use them again. And we're not even talking about valves. We're hoping all the valves check out and you're not pulling the tip or chipping the tip of a valve. You're looking at 50 runs, you're gonna spend $1,200 on a set of valves. You could pull them, you might could get some more out of them. It's tough to say. I mean, the valves, you just gotta stay on top of it. That's very dependent on what RPM you're turning and how fast you're going, how much power you're making. So then you get into the basic stuff. Oil change, $245 every 6 to 10 runs. A weekend, a normal weekend, not lights out. If we're at lights out, we're gonna be changing oil at the track. But a normal weekend, you go, if you race Friday, Saturday, you might make 3 or 4 passes on Friday, and you might make 6 passes on Saturday. I'd say that's pretty standard. So 6 to 10 runs, you're changing the oil pretty much every time. We run Schaefer's 50 weight oil, $245 every oil change. Along with that, transmission fluid, you're changing that on par with the oil. So every 6 to 10 runs, we're running Schaefer's All-Trans Supreme, you're looking at $150. Tires, about 30 runs. We mark them every time we go up there, or every time we get back from pass and mark them. So you get about 30 runs out of these tires. Now, the tires can be a little misleading because I take them off a car that is as aggressive as this and 60 foot's as hard as this thing, and I'll take them off and I'll put them on Eddie Murphy or I'll put them on the Cow. What's that?
My car's got a set from the sheep on it.
Yeah, you got, so they're not dead, they're just dead for this car. And you can put them on some lower horsepower stuff and they'll work fine. And then you look at spark plugs where every 2 runs, it really depends. Sometimes we'll go to the track and we won't change the plug at all. It really depends on what you're doing with the tune-up. Sometimes we're changing them every single pass. So every 2 runs, what's that? Well, just if it depends on what we're doing at the track. Like if we're going out there and we're leaning on it, we're going to look at it. If we're going out there Thursday night, we're not going to bother pulling them. Every 2 runs, we'll say you put plugs in there, you get them at $3 a rip, you're $24 for plugs. So that's just the general maintenance. No labor, no time, and that's if everything checks out. It's not like you go to put a valve spring on there and you see a valve tips mess up and you got to pull the head off. Now you got to put a new head gasket on there. You got to take the heads of CT cam and then they got to do a valve job. Like, whoa, that's all completely separate. This is if everything checks out. So if we were to do it on a 60 run cycle, right? So every 60 runs, that's pretty much when we're doing our full maintenance. We're taking the motor out and going through it. So you're in $4,000 in rods, $1,500 in lockup clutches. You're in $2,400 in bearings. You are in that math is.
I was looking at it,
dude. How'd you let me do that?
I don't know. I was looking at it while you were talking.
That math was unreal. we'll just extend it, right? So we'll just get an extra 10 runs out of the valve spring. So we're only $1,200 in valve springs. Oil changes were in $1,470. Trans fluid were in $900. Tires were in $1,244. And plugs were in $720. So I gotta adjust my total. I'm math wrong, dude. Listen, I didn't.
What'd you go with the total?
I came up with a 1270. Oh, so hold on. Logan's got me that new total. It is. Logan, read it to me. $434. Now divide that by 60, so we get a cost per run. So per run, $223.90.
Just imagine.
Every time that bitch goes down track, you're at 200 and you're burning it. You have it in your wallet, you take it out, you just set it on fire. Every time it goes down track, $223.90. That is disgusting. How did we get here?
I was gonna say, I think it probably cost me about $20 good, not even $20 good.
That's not fuel. We didn't put any fuel in this. Fuel's cheap though. Fuel's cheap.
Fuel's pretty
and we sell fuel here at Nasty Speed Performance. So if you are a racer, right, and you want some VP fuels, we have a special deal for you. You just hit us up, Nasty Speed Performance. Check us out on Facebook. You guys need to all go and follow our Nasty Speed Performance Facebook page. We're about to release the Nasty Speed Performance membership program where you guys can get parts cheaper than anywhere. Anywhere, and I mean that, anywhere. So you can actually, by joining our membership, you get exclusive deals, and you get parts, and you get fuel cheaper than you can get anywhere. It actually saves you money. You pay us $69 a month, and you save money. But yeah, that's what it costs to run a car of this caliber. What's that? Yeah, nice. I like that. Yeah, well, a little bit higher standard though. All right. Comment down below if you think I missed anything. But this is what it looks like. You can go and make 60 runs and you have 0 parts failures, which is pretty unheard of at this point. We haven't even factored in time. Like if you're paying labor, I mean, that goes way up. So $13,000 every 60 runs. I don't know why we do this at this point. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next upload.